My parents said, "We're paying for your brother's wedding only." When they saw what I did 6 months later, it was already too late. My name is Evan, and the day my parents told me they were paying for my brother's wedding, but not mine, I didn't argue. I just nodded, smiled, and quietly decided they'd never get the chance to make that mistake again. But let me rewind. Growing up, my family had a clear rule: Jason first, Evan second. Every time. If Jason wanted something, he got it. If I wanted something, I had to earn it, and then feel guilty for asking. When he wrecked the car at 16, boys will be boys. When I scraped a bumper in a parking lot, you're responsible. If he failed a class, the teacher was blamed. If I got a B+, I was asked what happened. Jason was their pride. I was their project. And I spent years trying to change that. I worked harder, stayed out of trouble, put myself through college, even landed a full-time job before I graduated. And still, nothing. No, we're proud of you. No, you've come so far. Just silence, or worse, comparison. So when I met Claire, it felt like breathing fresh air after living underwater. She didn't just see me, she saw through me. The cracks, the doubt, the weight of second place. And she loved me because of it, not despite it. We got engaged. I was nervous to tell my family, but Claire convinced me to give them a chance. "They're your parents," she said. "Maybe this is the moment they'll show up for you." So we invited them to dinner, Jason included. Claire wore her best dress. I rehearsed what I'd say. It felt like maybe, just maybe, this would be the night things turned around. They didn't. Jason arrived 45 minutes late. No apology. My mum kissed him on the cheek like royalty had arrived. My dad handed him a drink before even acknowledging Claire. We toasted, ate, forced small talk, and then I said it. "We're getting married." There was a pause, the kind that makes you wish you hadn't spoken. And then my mother said, "Well, since we're already paying for Jason's wedding next spring, venue, flights, everything, I'm afraid we won't be able to contribute to yours. I'm sure you understand." Claire looked at me. Jason smirked. I felt something in my chest go still. Not broken, done. I didn't get angry. I didn't push back. I just smiled and said, "Of course." But what they didn't know is that while they were planning a wedding for their favorite child, I was quietly building something that would change everything. After that dinner, something inside me unlocked. Not rage, not heartbreak. Something colder, cleaner. Like I'd finally stopped trying to win a game that was always rigged against me. Claire could tell. She didn't ask questions. She just wrapped her arms around me that night, held me tight, and said, "Whatever you're planning, I trust you." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't love her. God, I did. But because the plan I had in mind didn't need words. I had a savings account Claire didn't even know about. It wasn't much, but I'd been stashing away bits and pieces from freelance gigs since I was 19. Graphic design work, branding, local business stuff. Nothing glamorous. But I had one client, just one, that changed everything. A small family-owned wedding venue, 2 towns over. The owners were aging out. Their daughter didn't want to run it. They were tired, and they liked me. The year before, I had helped them revamp their website, build a new visual brand, and create a smoother online booking system. I'd done it for a fraction of my normal rate. Why?
Because I saw the cracks forming.
I saw the for sale paperwork in the drawer behind the front desk. I saw the owner's hands trembling when he did the books. I heard them joke, "Maybe we'll sell the place to some city kid who doesn't know any better." Except I did know better. So after that dinner with my parents, after they said they had nothing to contribute, I made a call. 2 weeks later, I emptied my secret account, borrowed from a former professor who believed in me, and made the offer. It wasn't glamorous. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't drive off in a Lamborghini. I bought a shabby, beautiful, neglected wedding venue with rotting wood beams and sun-drenched windows. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't even tell Claire, not yet, because I wanted it to be mine first. Mine, not because someone gave it to me. Mine because no one could ever take it away. By the time Claire found out, it was already taking shape. I brought her to the property under the guise of checking out a potential wedding spot. Her heels clicked on the old stone floor as she looked around, confused. "This place is beautiful," she whispered. Then she turned to me and said, "Wait, why are we the only ones here?" I handed her the keys. "What is this?" she asked. I took a breath. "This is our venue." Her eyes welled up. "You booked this whole place?" I smiled. "No, Claire, we own it." She didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. Then she punched me in the chest and kissed me harder than ever before. That night, we laid on the dusty floor of the bridal suite, laughing, dreaming, imagining the kind of love that didn't need anyone's approval to thrive. Meanwhile, my parents were helping Jason select his napkin colors and wine pairings. They had no idea what was coming. Jason's wedding was 3 months away. Every time I spoke to my parents, it was the only thing they talked about. Your brother's going with navy and blush, so tasteful. Did you see the venue? A vineyard. They spared no expense. Jason wants you in the wedding party. Won't that be nice? Nice? They wanted me to stand beside him, smile for the cameras, and clap like a trained seal, while he married the woman he cheated on 3 years ago. Yes, I knew everything. But I said nothing, because I wasn't angry. I was focused. While they obsessed over Jason's seating chart, I was knee-deep in renovation plans. My weekends were spent scrubbing mildew from antique tile, hauling reclaimed wood for the archway, and designing Claire's dream garden ceremony spot with string lights and hand-planted lavender. By February, the venue didn't just look good, it felt sacred. Claire, bless her, never once asked about my family. She just worked alongside me, hammer in hand, paint in her hair, and let the silence speak. But the silence didn't last. One Sunday, we ran into my parents at the grocery store. I hadn't seen them since the dinner. Jason wasn't with them. My mum spotted us near the produce aisle. She smiled like nothing had happened. Well, if it isn't the happy couple, she beamed. So have you two picked a date yet? Claire froze. I felt her fingers tighten around the cart. I smiled. Working on it. You know, Dad added, it's not too late to do a joint ceremony. Jason mentioned it. Said it could be fun. 2 brothers, 1 big event. Fun? I almost laughed. I could see it in their eyes. They thought they were being generous, that this was some kind of olive branch, a chance to ride Jason's coattails and save face. Claire opened her mouth to speak, but I beat her to it. We're doing something small, I said. Private. Oh, my mum blinked. Like City Hall? Something like that, I replied. She nodded, clearly disappointed. Dad scratched his neck. They didn't press further, because they weren't curious. They were dismissive. They thought we were eloping out of financial necessity. I could have corrected them. Could have told them we had a private venue tucked into the hills, more beautiful than any vineyard. That Claire's dress was custom-made by a designer she followed since college. That the guest list would be hand-picked, intimate, and free of people who only showed up when there was credit to steal. But I didn't say a word, because some victories are too perfect to spoil with explanation. Jason's wedding came and went in April. It was big, loud, expensive. I showed up in the suit they picked for me, took the photos, toasted the couple, played my part. Jason gave a speech about loyalty and family. My parents cried. No one noticed Claire slipping away after dessert. No one saw me leave 5 minutes later. We met in the parking lot. She smiled and said, "Let's go home." She didn't mean our apartment. She meant the place we built. Claire and I got married 3 weeks after Jason's wedding. There were no engraved invitations, no bridal expos, no Facebook announcements. Just 23 people, each one handpicked. A close friend flew in from Tokyo. Claire's grandmother wore the same necklace she wore at her own wedding in 1957. My old college roommate played guitar as Claire walked down the garden path. And no one cried from obligation. They cried because they meant it. The lavender we'd planted bloomed just in time. The aisle smelled like spring and second chances. Claire wore a sleeveless silk dress, custom-stitched by an indie designer in Montreal. She walked barefoot, hair in a loose braid, not for trend, but because it felt like her. And I, standing at the altar, under the archway I built with my own hands, felt something I'd never felt around my family. Enough. I wasn't the afterthought anymore. I wasn't Jason's brother. I wasn't waiting for approval that would never come. I was Evan, a husband, a builder, a man who turned hurt into home. Our vows weren't flashy. Claire said, "You're the only thing in my life that ever made sense," quietly. And I said, "With you I stopped needing to explain myself." We kissed. The sky turned gold. And just like that, it was done. Not a spectacle, not a statement. Just love, unfiltered. We danced under string lights until our legs gave out. Cut our cake with a butter knife someone forgot to replace. Laughed until our cheeks hurt. And at the end of the night, when the last guest left, Claire and I laid on the old wooden floor of the bridal suite, same as the day we first walked in, and just existed. No cameras. No clapping. No curated perfection. Just two people. Enough for each other. I posted one photo the next day. No caption. Just Claire, barefoot on the altar, arms wide open like she was catching the sun. I didn't tag her, didn't geotag the location. But somehow, it still reached them. The text came from my mum the next morning. You got married? No greeting. No warmth. Just two question marks filled with disbelief. I stared at the message for a full minute, then locked my phone and went back to bed. Claire was still asleep, hair a mess, mouth slightly open. She looked more beautiful than she did in that silk dress. An hour later, another text. From Jason this time. Really classy, bro. Couldn't even invite your own family? Still no congrats. No, you look happy. Just the wounded ego of a man who realized for the first time that he wasn't the center of the universe. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. Didn't feel the urge to explain. They weren't angry we didn't invite them. They were angry that we didn't need them. And that was the first real shift of power. After our wedding, the silence didn't last. The texts turned into calls. The calls turned into voicemails. The voicemails turned into guilt-laced invitations. Your father's birthday dinner is this Friday. We should sit down, talk things out. Your brother wants to clear the air. They weren't reaching out to reconnect. They were reaching out to reassert control, to pretend it hadn't happened, to drag me back into their orbit like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Claire and I were booked solid. Weddings every weekend. Our venue had exploded in popularity. Turns out, people want places that feel like stories, not factories. And ours had a story woven into every beam, every vine, every sunset-colored chair we sanded by hand. I'd built a booking system that automated everything. Claire ran client meetings. I handled back-end logistics. By June, we were profitable. By July, fully booked for the next 8 months. By August, we were hiring. And still not a word of congratulations from my parents. But something else arrived instead, a request. From Jason. He and his new wife were renewing their vows for content mostly. Her influencer status demanded it. They needed a venue. Somewhere charming but exclusive. And wouldn't you know it, someone had recommended us. Claire brought the request to me with an arched eyebrow. She didn't say a word, just handed me the email. I read it twice. Jason hadn't recognized the venue as ours. Hadn't even connected the dots. He just liked the photos, the aesthetic, the vibe. The message ended with, "Can we get a family rate?" I laughed out loud. Not bitterly, not cruelly, just. Claire watched me, waiting for my reaction. I said, "Tell him we're not accepting new bookings for that weekend." She nodded once. Didn't ask why. Because she already knew. It wasn't about revenge. It was about dignity. It was about saying no thank you to people who only knock when they need something. The next day, Jason messaged me directly.
Did Claire see my email? We really want that spot.
I replied simply, "It's unavailable." He didn't respond. 2 days later, my parents called. Claire answered. I only caught her half of the conversation. "No, Evan isn't available this weekend either." "Yes, I'm sure. We're not doing family discounts. Have a nice day." Click. We didn't argue, didn't justify, didn't explain, because for the first time, they were on the outside looking in. Not because we pushed them out, but because they'd never truly stepped in to begin with. He showed up on a Thursday. No call, no warning. Just pulled into the gravel lot in his navy sedan, still wearing that same damn beige windbreaker he wore to every school event where I sat alone on the bleachers. Claire spotted him from the office window. I was setting up chairs on the west lawn when she walked over, quietly, and said, "Your father's here." I didn't flinch, didn't curse, just took a breath and said, "All right." When I walked up, he was staring at the archway I'd built with my own hands, touching one of the joints like he was inspecting a stranger's work. "Nice place," he said. I nodded. "Thanks." He looked around. "You built all this?" "Most of it." He gave a low whistle, like that was supposed to mean something. Then he said, "Look, I know things have been tense. I figured it might be time to clear the air." I leaned against the fence. "Sure, go ahead." He didn't expect that. You could see it in the way his mouth opened and closed, like he'd rehearsed some big speech, but forgot the lines. "I just think, maybe we didn't handle things perfectly." I stayed silent. "You've always been independent. I respected that, but maybe we didn't say it enough." Still nothing from me. He shifted. "I mean, Jason needed more. He struggled. You always had things under control. Maybe we leaned on you too much to be fine. I looked him dead in the eye. You never leaned on me. You looked past me. That landed. Not hard. Not loud. But precise. He blinked. Looked away. I'm not here to make excuses, he said, already making them. I nodded slowly. Good, because I'm not here to rewrite the past. He sighed. So what now? You just cut us off? I smiled, genuinely. No, I just stopped asking to be let in. There was a long pause. The kind that fills your ears like static, then softer. We miss you. It was the first honest thing he'd said. And maybe for a second I wanted to let it pull me back. But that's the thing about healing. Once you start building your own home, you stop craving the one that never made room for you. So I said, I hope you're well, and nodded toward his car. He didn't fight it, didn't raise his voice, just gave one last look around the venue at the chairs, the lights, the soil I turned with my own hands and walked away. I watched the car pull out. Claire came up beside me and didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Some endings don't need fireworks. They just need closure. And I'd finally given myself mine. It started with a headline. Vinewood Estate faces financial strain amid lawsuit from influencer couple. A local Business Journal article shared to LinkedIn, then quietly passed around between wedding vendors like gossip at a garden party. Apparently one of their high-profile clients, a YouTube power couple, sued after claiming the venue mismanaged their ceremony. Rain plan failures, double booking, no refunds. The article didn't name names, but I knew the couple. Claire had worked with them 2 seasons ago. Jason's venue. And she'd warned me back then. They're all about optics. If they feel embarrassed, they burn the house down. Jason had ignored her. Of course he had. He thought money fixed everything. But weddings are emotional terrain. That if the chairs were gold-trimmed and the champagne flowed, no one cared what happened underneath. You run it with memory, with trust. You don't run a venue with spreadsheets, and Jason had neither. Brides cancelled. Reviews dropped. The lawsuit went public. Vendors began pulling out. I didn't say a word. It started with a headline. A local Business Journal article shared to LinkedIn, then quietly passed around between wedding vendors like gossip at a garden party. Vinewood Estate faces financial strain amid lawsuit from influencer couple. Jason's venue. Apparently one of their high-profile clients, a YouTube power couple, sued after claiming the venue mismanaged their ceremony. Rain plan failures, double booking, no refunds. The article didn't name names, but I knew the couple. Claire had worked with them 2 seasons ago, and she'd warned me back then. They're all about optics. If they feel embarrassed, they burn the house down. Jason had ignored her. Of course he had. He thought money fixed everything. That if the chairs were gold-trimmed and the champagne flowed, no one cared what happened underneath. But weddings are emotional terrain. You don't run a venue with spreadsheets. You run it with memory, with trust. And Jason had neither. The lawsuit went public. Vendors began pulling out. Brides cancelled. Reviews dropped. I didn't say a word, didn't gloat, didn't reach out. But I noticed something. Every new booking inquiry we got, it came from someone who mentioned they used to be looking at Vinewood. The referrals came in quietly but steadily. By September, our calendar was full until the next summer. And then, one day, Jason showed up. Not at the venue, not at our apartment. At the coffee shop I visited every morning before opening. He looked smaller than I remembered. No blazer, just a sweatshirt and sunglasses. He sat down across from me, like we were equals. We never had been. Listen, he started. I need to ask you something. I sipped my coffee. He cleared his throat. We're restructuring. Vinewood's on pause. But we're thinking of going in a different direction. I said nothing. He leaned in. I want to license your booking system. That caught me off guard. He continued. It's sleek, efficient. Everyone's talking about it. I know you built it yourself. I'm willing to pay. I studied him. The same man who once laughed at my little side gigs. The same brother who sat smug beside my parents while I was told I'd never build anything sustainable. Now, he wanted a piece of it. Claire's voice echoed in my mind from months ago. You don't need revenge if you're already the answer to their problems. Still, I had to ask, why me? He hesitated. Because yours works and mine didn't. Honest. Almost admirable, but not enough. I leaned back and said, Jason, I didn't build that system for you. I built it for people who saw me when I was invisible. He blinked. You know, I added, You're not the villain in my story. Relief flickered in his eyes. I continued. You're just the footnote. He left without his coffee. The letter came on a Tuesday. Not a text, not a call. An actual envelope, hand-addressed in my father's blocky handwriting. A single page. Typed. Signed at the bottom. Evan, I've made mistakes. So has your mother. We see that now. We know we can't undo the past, but we want to know our son again. We'd like to visit on your terms. With love, Dad? Claire read it twice, then slid it back into the envelope without comment. I didn't react right away, not out of coldness. Just clarity. Because by now, I knew the difference between guilt and regret. Between missing someone and missing what they did for you. Still, I agreed. They came on a Sunday. My mother wore her pearl earrings. My father carried a bakery box like some kind of peace offering. They walked the grounds with stiff smiles, commenting on the wildflowers, the lighting, the guest cabins, like tourists in a life they never helped build. We sat beneath the same arch where Claire and I married. They brought up old memories, ones I didn't share, talked about Jason, his stress, his resilience. They still couldn't help themselves, couldn't quite resist the gravity of his name. I listened, nodded politely, and then finally, my mother asked, "Do you think maybe we could be part of your world again?" The question wasn't cruel. It wasn't manipulative, but it wasn't right either, because they weren't asking to know me. They were asking to escape who they'd been. And so I said, "You're welcome to visit, but I don't owe you a seat at the table I had to build from scraps." My father flinched, just slightly. My mother nodded, lips pressed tight. Claire arrived then, carrying lemonade. She smiled at them, offered drinks. They accepted. They stayed an hour, maybe less. And when they left, I didn't feel empty. I felt intact. Not because I had closed the door on them, but because they finally saw the walls and realized they were built without their bricks. That evening, Claire and I walked the property. She asked if I was okay. I said, "I'm better than okay," because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be seen. I was seen, not through their eyes, not through Jason's shadow, but through the work, the soil, the slow, steady hand of a man who'd stopped waiting for a legacy and built his own. It rained the morning of our anniversary. Not a storm, just a gentle drizzle that softened everything it touched. Claire and I stood under the covered porch, warm coffee in hand, watching droplets bead along the garden lights. The place looked different in the rain, still beautiful, but honest, like it had nothing to prove. Neither did I. 2 years, 47 weddings, 12 local vendor partnerships. One tiny greenhouse we turned into an elopement chapel. And not once had I looked back wondering, what if? I had stopped measuring my life in comparisons. Stopped waiting for praise that never came. Stopped thinking success needed to be seen to be real. Because the truth is, the real revenge isn't getting even. It's becoming someone they can no longer define. That afternoon, we hosted a small vow renewal. Just 20 guests. A second-chance couple in their late 50s. They cried more than any bride I'd ever seen. Afterward, the husband came to me, eyes damp, and said, "Thank you. This place feels like it was built by someone who understands what it means to start over." I smiled, because it was. Later that evening, as we locked up the chapel, Claire pulled out an old photo I hadn't seen in years. It was from Jason's wedding. There I was, tucked at the far end of the family row. No pétonière, no toast, just there. She said, "I kept it to remind you how far you've come." I looked at that version of me. Shoulders slightly hunched, eyes not quite meeting the lens. Then I looked at where I stood now, hand in hand with the woman who saw me, long before anyone else did. "You know," I said, "I used to think I had to prove myself to be worth loving." Claire turned to me. "And now? Now I just love." She kissed my hand, and in that moment, with the smell of lavender rising from the rain-soaked earth, and the last string lights flickering above us, I realized something.
I hadn't been written out of the story.
I just started a new one. One where family wasn't blood. It was the people who stayed, who showed up, who watered the soil with you, not just stood on the stage when the flowers bloomed. That night, as we cleaned up the last of the glasses and turned off the lights, I sat at one of the wooden tables we'd sanded ourselves. I ran my hand across its surface, rough in places, but solid, honest. And I thought, they never gave me a seat at the table. So I built the damn thing myself. And it held. It held all of it. The silence, the exile, The rebuilding, the roots and the rain. And most of all, it held me.